Midsummer Scream is finally upon us, and there's a few things you're gonna want to keep in mind when planning your trip. In this video, I'm gonna be talking about everything Midsummer Scream, from the parking to what you can bring into the convention center, and some of the most anticipated guests, vendors, and panels. And this video is for everyone, regardless if you're a veteran or if this is your very first Midsummer Scream. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is packing. The number one thing I highly recommend is to bring cash. Yes, bring cash. You should have the ability to purchase with card. However, there's always gonna be the one-off case that some of the vendors only take cash. And right outside the convention center, you're also gonna find food trucks and street vendors. So it's a good idea to have cash just in case anything pops up. Now, another thing to pack is gonna be food and drinks. So technically you can't actually bring in any outside food or drinks into the Long Beach Convention Center. However, to be honest, we've kind of been getting away with it for the past few years, so it's not that hard. But for legal reasons, what we recommend is to bring a cooler. Bring a cooler, fill it with your food, have some snacks and drinks in there, especially water. There is no water in the venue whatsoever. They do have water fountains and they explicitly turn them off just for the convention. So make sure you have water. If you can get some into the venue in your backpack, great. If not, just make sure you have some waiting in your car, preferably with a cooler because it will heat up. Just walking back to your car, having a lunch there. While it may be a small investment of your time, it's actually going to save you a lot of money in the long run. And when we say there's no water, I really mean you will not be able to drink water unless you're drinking out of the sink. And if you are, I get it, but also ew. So backpacks actually are allowed. I would recommend bringing the smallest one you can, just to not have to worry about carrying everything. You may not be bringing a lot of stuff, but there's a good chance you might be leaving with a little bit more than you brought in. Now you're all packed, lunch is ready to go. What is the best place to park? So this is a map of all the parking around the Long Beach Convention Center, and on average it's gonna be $15 to park. Now, most of them do take cash or card. I highly recommend getting there early though, because although there will definitely be a spot for you, it'll be so much easier to get in and out of if you park close. And especially if you're going back to your car for lunches because you're smart. So there's obviously gonna be a plethora of notable figures, panels, things to see and do, but throughout the convention, it's gonna be a little difficult to keep track of everything. So how is the best way to go about that? So glad you asked. The Midsummer Scream app. I actually highly recommend taking a peek at the entire itinerary in the app beforehand, because what you can do in the app is actually select the panels, the people, the vendors that you actually wanna see, and then the app will actually customize an itinerary that you have hand selected. So while you're at the event, you don't even have to worry about what time is this, what time is this. You just pull up your app and it shows everything and the times you want to do them. On top of the show times, it is actually going to tell you the locations of everything. And this is updated by the minute. So if anything has to be pulled or replaced, the first place you can see that is going to be in the Midsummer Scream app. What are some of the biggest things coming to Midsummer Scream? First and foremost, the vendors. So there's going to be a plethora of vendors covering the show floor, hundreds of them in fact. So make sure that you actually have a little bit of time to explore the vendors. On the vendor floor, you're actually going to have some booths that are there to have interactive experiences, such as the Saw experience presented by Lionsgate, as well as Abandoned Vegas, which is going to have live shibari acts and a few other circus performers. The next thing of note is the Black Cat Lounge. So Kitten Rescue USA, I believe is what they're called. They'll actually have a room where you can go and play with adorable and adoptable kittens. So for any cat lovers, you absolutely have to check it out, because even if you're not in the market to adopt, you can go and spend some quality time with some beautiful kittens. But if you are, then there's no better time to do it than at Midsummer Scream. Next, we have the Screaming Room Film Festival. Screening throughout the entire weekend will be a hand-selected list of films for you to check out. So moving on to my absolute favorite things at Midsummer Scream, first and foremost is the Hall of Shadows. So the Hall of Shadows is a portion of the event dedicated to a whole bunch of mini haunts, haunt displays, haunted themed games. If it's spooky, it lives in the Hall of Shadows. Moving on to Saturday for the After Dark event. It is kind of like a Midsummer Scream version of a nightclub in the best way possible. It's gonna be themed and there's gonna be a ton to do on top of having a bar. So there's gonna be a DJ with a dance floor. Although it might not be everyone's cup of tea, if you're even remotely interested, I highly recommend you make it out. On top of all that, there's actually gonna be a multitude of performances that are consistently gonna be happening throughout the weekend. Some of the featured talent include Zombie Joe's Underground Theater. They're going to be doing a special performance of Urban Death, which is their Halloween staple show. Also, Cabaret Macabre is going to be performing throughout the weekend. You really should see Cabaret and Urban Death. On Friday, you have the opportunity to see a brand new rock musical called Exorcistic, which just sounds like a fun time. And on top of all of that, one of the biggest reasons people come to Midsummer Scream is the panels. So I'm gonna tell you about the panels I think are gonna be the busiest. Starting with Saturday at 12:30, we have the 13th Floor Entertainment Group presentation. So their panel is actually gonna cover a lot. They have multiple events, including a brand new one launching in, I believe, El Monte this year. Just about every year they've been there, they will actually give away a free ticket to one of their events for the season. So if you're in the market to get a free ticket to a haunted event, go to the freaking panel! Following that, at 3:30, we actually have the Saw X presentation. I'm not entirely sure what it's gonna encompass, but what I do know is that if you're excited for a brand new Saw title, you better be there. And the biggest one for Saturday is gonna be at 5 p.m. That is the Knott's Scary Farm panel. If you can't wait to find out what's coming to Knott's Berry Farm this year, then you better be waiting in that line to get in. And moving on to Sunday at 1:30, you're going to have the Haunted Mansion behind the scenes panel. And that panel is discussing the Haunted Mansion film to be released with Rosario Dawson. So if you're thinking it's for the ride, not exactly. I'm sure they're gonna talk about it because obviously that's where the story originates. But if you're there for a Haunted Mansion ride presentation, this might not be it for you. And finally, the biggest one in my opinion, Sunday at 4:30, we have Halloween Horror Nights. John Murdy is returning once again, and he is going to tell us something we probably have already guessed, but he's gonna confirm it so we can finally stop speculating. By the way, I think it's gonna be the Five Nights at Freddy's Maze announcement. But what are you most excited to see this weekend? Let me know in the comments down below, and we will see you at Midsummer Scream 2023.